Hello, Namaste. My name is Tim Halloran. I'm an astrologer in Savannah, Georgia. This is a weekly astrological forecast. I put these videos on YouTube once a week. You can help support future videos from me by purchasing a reading at the link below. Today is Monday, the 13th of April. We're basically into our last week of the Aries season, our last week of this past eclipse moon cycle. So on Saturday we had our half moon in Capricorn, and now the moon is going to be waning all this week into a new moon on Saturday. Sunday we had the moon move into Aquarius. Tomorrow the moon will move into Pisces, and Thursday the moon will move into Aries. And then Saturday, 3 p.m., we have a new moon in Aries, 28 degrees. And then 2 days later, Monday, April 20th, the sun officially enters Taurus and Taurus season begins. So this week we are pretty much wrapping up this month-long eclipse season period that has been pretty intense, pretty shocking, pretty spontaneous. This is typical eclipse season. And of course this year it initiated on March 20th. We had a solar eclipse at the final degree of Pisces, and this also was going on around the time of our final Uranus-Pluto square. And this square is still pretty exact throughout this entire last month. It's been intense, it's been restless, it's been transformative. Eclipse season gives us these random, spontaneous switch-arounds. It's like we're all waiting in line. We're waiting for something. We're waiting for something to come. We're waiting to build something. We're waiting to get some desire, some intimacy in relationship, some type of inner security. And this is what we're actively working on. Now, eclipse season can really switch up things. So it's like we're waiting in this line, and somebody can come up and say, oh, you're a very important person. You get to skip to the front of the line. Or, likewise, we could be in the front of the line and then someone comes up to us and says, oh, you're too short to ride. You need to go to the back of the line, or you need to get into another line for a different ride. And we've been thinking about getting on this ride for the last 2 hours, and now all of a sudden, things have changed. And it can be spontaneous, and it can be challenging. And we see that there are some challenges, some of these culminating challenges, wrapping up cycle challenges going on this week. Because all of these changes, all of these realizations, these sudden developments have been happening on the personal level. This has been Aries season. March 20th we had a solar eclipse, and that same day the sun entered Aries. Then about 2 weeks later we had our lunar eclipse in Libra. And this is this polarizing tension that was the challenge of self and other. What is changing, what is going on in our individual world? What realizations have we made? What new ways do we desire to pioneer? Is all happening on a very personal, individual basis. Not the same thing is happening to everybody. Everybody is getting kind of put through this tumbler of personal evolution and transformation. And the challenge here, of course, is how do we integrate this into our relationships? How do we integrate this practically into our world? Has been the challenge, and we sort of see this playing out this week as well. Tomorrow, Mercury will move into Taurus, which is nice, because Mercury's been in Aries for pretty much the last month. And Mercury in Aries is a hot head. And all of this intensity, this Aries active, exciting energy, I mean, it can be very exciting. It can be very progressive. But there's also been so much going on. It's been easy to get overstimulated or to overheat. And with Mercury moving into Taurus, things start to slow down on the mental plane. Now, Venus did just enter Gemini on Saturday, this last weekend. So we're continuing to kind of speed up in relationships, network more with relationships, communicate our value systems and our desires with one another. However, tomorrow, this Venus in Gemini is forming an opposition to retrograde Saturn in Sagittarius all day long. And this opposition will be exact tomorrow, pretty much midnight. And this can be a challenge. This can be a challenge of how we are actually communicating in our relationship. We may find it difficult to express our sentiments in words. And this is part of this challenge of what's going on with all of these changes happening on the personal, individual level. is it's kind of difficult to put into words to totally express to other people what is going on personally for ourselves. Now, we do desire to communicate. Venus in Gemini is that we do value our relationships. We do value our expression and our communication. This stuff is important. And with any, negative aspect, we're talking about squares and oppositions in astrology. These kind of get negative reputations as being challenging and therefore negative. But they are inherently not actually negative. Challenges are progressive. When we are put through challenging situations, it forces us to find creative solutions. And this is what we see going on a lot this week, is there is some tension this week. There is work that needs to be done. There is, associations that we need to be working with. And this is this creative challenge. How do we do this? How do we integrate all of the changes, all of the realizations that have been happening on the personal level, and now integrate these into our lives in a way that works, and a way that works with other people? We still are going to be continuing to implement and to continue to chip out work this next month, beginning on Saturday. We have the new moon, and then the sun moves into Taurus on Monday. So Taurus season is going to take us through the month of May. And this season is much more about going at our own pace, getting stuff done, but we are continuing to kind of chip away at what we need to do. Now, in order to do this, we need to have our own affirmation and self-empowerment to continue going in the direction that has been kind of thrust upon us this last month. This last month was new directions, new stuff being thrust upon us, and now we may find ourselves slightly curbed or going in a new direction. And we're going to continue to move in that direction for this next month, and really, throughout the rest of the year, until we have our fall time eclipse season where things do get shifted around again. But this Pluto-Uranus square that's been going on, this is the spontaneous, sudden changes. And oftentimes, there is not a whole lot of external verification that what we are doing and these new changes that we are basically initiating and way paving on our own is okay. There's not always external verification. Venus opposite to Saturn means we may not get external verification from our relationships, from our friends, which means that we have to continue to do the work that we feel is required of us via our own self-initiation. We have to trust ourselves. We have to trust our wisdom. We have to trust our own experience, because not everybody has the same knowledge and the same experience. Everybody is getting shifted around in different ways. We have to be secure in our own desires, in our own way forward, in our own understanding that this is what we want to do and this is going to work, this is practical, and this is right. And we don't always get external verification. And what this is forcing upon us, therefore, is the need to initiate ourselves in what we understand. And this is part of the challenge, isn't it? Is what we understand is not always easy to share with other people. But for most of us who do possess authentic understanding, there is of course the desire to share this understanding. All of these changes that have been going on have not necessarily been fun or exciting or comfortable. It's been difficult, we've been thrown around, we want to feel comforted by other people. However, other people may not have had the same experiences, may not have had the same understanding, and yet we want to share these things. And this is, of course, a noble desire to share our understanding, to share the changes, to share the realizations that have happened within us with other people is a very noble desire. But it is a challenge this week. On the day of the new moon, Mercury is going to be square to asteroid Juno. Venus is going to be square to asteroid Vesta, conjunct Neptune. Mars is going to be square to Jupiter. These squares are tense. They provide challenges that are going to be taking us through this next month, beginning Monday the 20th, when the sun moves into Taurus, of getting down to work, doing business, busting stuff out. However, it is challenging to be reaffirmed via other people, to be able to communicate clearly the essence of what we are trying to depart to other people. This has to do inherently with language. It has to do with communication. It has to do with the fact that there is limitation between our own inner experiences and how we can express these things to other people. Vesta, being conjunct Neptune in Pisces this week, is a wonderful opportunity for us to go inward and realize what understanding we have, coming from a very deep place, coming from our own hearts, coming from unconditional love, coming from our spiritual desires. This is what we believe in. This is what we want to see. This is what we hope to share with the world. And yet putting it into words, communicating it in our relationships in an actually useful, impacting way can be challenging. Why is this? Well, I think that we are talking about a very age-old dilemma that we are being required to change within ourselves on an individual level now, that should hopefully cause us to collectively move forward in such a way where we can have an easier time embodying who we are and expressing who we are with less challenge. And what we're talking about is language, communication. It's like we can understand something and we can put it into words the best of our own capability, and yet it may not still reach people. Is this our fault? Is this because we are an inferior teacher? No, it has to do with the actual fact that we are using words, we're using language, and we're trying to do this communication via words and language, which does not always work out for the best. How can we see this? We can see this in history. Many people agree that the beginning of the patriarchal, male-dominant age began with the invention of written word and language. Now, I think this original invention and pioneering of written language was originally a very noble and compassionate effort. Why? Because there were people thousands and thousands of years ago who had tremendous wisdom and understanding coming from their own personal experiences, and they wanted to share this wisdom and understanding with all other people. So we created language, which was originally the beginning of written religion, written law. Now we have books that became ancient books, that became the guideposts of all religion for thousands of years. However, many of us are aware that these books, having all of this wisdom and all of this truth within them, it is true, there is truth, there is wisdom within these books. Reading these books does not guarantee that we get this wisdom. There is a lot of confusion between religions, even within religions, regarding their own textbooks, regarding their own rules, regulations, and understanding. So written word and communication is not the be-all, end-all in terms of teaching ourselves and one another wisdom. How can we share our understanding with others in a way that actually effectively reaches them? Perhaps not trying to engage in a technical conversation or even simply trying to express our sentiments in words. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes we need more than words. And what we really need to do is embody these words. This is the difference. When somebody is embodying understanding, it is not necessary for them to put that understanding into words, which may be kind of difficult for some of us to understand, because after so many thousands of years of words and language being so important, we have kind of evolved in such a way to become dependent on them. And I'm a Gemini, I totally understand this. When people don't communicate well, I get totally lost, because that's my language. However, we need to embody understanding, because as much as we may talk and talk and talk, there's not always the guarantee that other people are going to understand this. And that may make us feel isolated, make us feel alone, make us feel like there's nothing we can do to be in contact with other people. And so I think a really good practice to get into and a really good intention to put into this new moon on Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I see this new moon, 28 degrees, as the kind of encapsulation of all of these changes that have been going on this last month. All these eclipse season changes, really beginning that solar eclipse that was on the spring equinox, March 20th. We are encapsulating all of these changes, all of these realizations, all of these development into one form that is you, that is me as an individual. We need to encapsulate this understanding into form and embody it. This means that we live life through our actions, and our actions is what teaches our understanding to others. Our actions and our lives exemplify our understanding. And I forgot to mention that the Sabian symbol for this new moon is the sound of the spheres. Now the sound of the spheres is everything. The sound of the spheres is beauty and love. The sound of the spheres is me and you. So we need to become the sound of the spheres. We need to become the music, the dance, the beauty. We need to initiate ourselves into becoming who we naturally are, being the sound of the spheres, becoming this beauty, embodying this beauty, living as this beauty. We need not to put everything into words. We need not try to, immediately grab onto everybody, pull them into our circle, and enlighten them with what's going on in us. This can be difficult in times like these, where there are so many challenges. But these challenges are not a problem. These challenges are forcing us to find creative solutions. And I think the way that we find creative solutions is we need to practice emotional intelligence. We need to know when to talk, when not to talk. Sometimes our expressions can be through feelings, sometimes through body language, facial expressions. These are languages that have been forgotten more so over time. But we can better demonstrate and exemplify our own understanding through actually integrating it into our life, through our actions and what we are doing. Therefore, it's kind of a little bit of a recommendation this week to kind of focus on our own. Make sure that we have our stuff together. And remember that this is a time of self-initiation. We may not get exterior verification that we're on the right path, that we understand what we do. We have to go within ourselves and trust our own spiritual intuition. And this is the benefit of having this Vesta conjunct to Neptune, is we can kind of quiet down, slow down, and focus intensely this week on our own spiritual connection. That is in itself a self-initiation, that we are continuing to go in the right direction, to keep doing whatever we're doing, that this understanding and these realizations and these developments are good and productive and heading in the right way. We have only our hearts to trust sometimes. We can't expect everybody else to simply carry us and reaffirm to us and teach us everything. This is a time of doing our own self-reflection. This is a time of kind of pulling all of this within ourselves and stepping up and say, you know what? I am qualified. I am empowered enough to make my own decisions, to start living life the way I believe my life should be lived. And you know what? Other people will be impressed, will be uplifted by you living the life the way you believe it should be lived. Let's not necessarily put our beliefs into textbooks and words and broadcasting it all over everybody else. Let's take these beliefs and let's apply them into practical action. What are we doing in our life that works? And let's put all this intention into this new moon this Saturday. That way we can carry this energy into Taurus season, be able to put our head down, kind of slow down, and bust out some stuff. Bust out some tangible evidence that what we are doing is working. Taurus is self-security. Taurus is take care of things yourself. Taurus is find your own self-security through proving that you have it, through your own capability to be self-secure, to provide your own resources, to provide your own good health, good emotion, good happiness. And then once we have that and it is firmly established within ourselves, well then automatically and effortlessly it gets communicated, it gets expressed to other people. So this is a wonderful opportunity to see what gifts are being bestowed within ourselves, throughout this past month that's been pretty tumultuous, that's had all of these changes, we have to remember that even the greatest challenges are there to serve us, to provoke us to evolve, to find creative solutions that are going to take us to higher and higher and higher levels of understanding, of actualizing our own desires, and finding out what our unique form of self-expression is. That way we can start implementing it ourselves without waiting for the go-ahead, without waiting for external verification. Trust yourself, do it yourself, prove to yourself that you are made of what you are made of. And this can be very empowering and very self-affirming. All right? So I'm wishing all the best to you and your beloveds in this endeavor. We can certainly take a look at your chart, at your transits, to see what's been going on this last month. We can see how the transits, that's the astrological weather for this year of 2015, are playing out for you. I also offer individual natal chart readings that are in-depth readings of your soul and your soul's evolution throughout this lifetime. And I also am going to start offering, I think, 60-minute impromptu readings where we can look at your chart, you can have questions, and we can kind of meet and do this on a spontaneous, intuitive level. All right? So let's keep our chin up, let's remain encouraged, let's keep moving forward, and let's find some inner self-security. That way we can feel safe with where we are and what we are doing without needing any type of external proving that we are what we are. And then we can become situated in security, in which case we can become beacons of security for other people in a world that needs so much security. And there are going to be people that are looking for help, that are looking for security, that are looking for words of advice this week. So let's find our own inner security and start offering what we have to other people without necessarily expecting too much back. All right? So all the best to you, your beloveds. Namaste.